So I saw Captain Marvel and Shazam the past week, and I like them. I guess you can call this a side-by-side comparison / review. And do bear with me because this is the first time I'm doing this. Captain Marvel, the obligatory MCU origin movie. What did I like about it, and what didn't I like about it? I like Brie Larson's performance here. I like how she's able to seamlessly transition between serious and dramatic, and lighthearted and casual. She strikes this effective contrast between a commandeering and imposing presence, and an inquisitive and doubtful one. And that sort of contrast is the recipe for a good, compelling internal conflict, which the movie does give us. You know, Carol Danvers is as much at war with herself as she is with the opposition. It adds gravitas to Carol's journey of self-discovery and finding her place in the galaxy. The chemistry between the characters is another strong point of the movie, especially between Carol and Nick Fury. There's elements of the classic fish out of water tale and buddy cop stories with how Carol and Nick often act as the straight man to each other. And from that, you can tell how close these characters are to each other. Likewise, the other performances were great too. Samuel L. Jackson, Ben Mendelsohn, Jude Law, Lashana Lynch, all top-notch performances. The action sequences were also pretty good. They're not quite to the scale of the Avengers movies. These ones are smaller and more self-contained. But just because the action is smaller doesn't mean that the stakes are smaller. Speaking of, there are definitely political undertones in this movie, particularly with Carol, a female lead protagonist, failing in multiple aspects of her life, and eventually getting back on her feet after these failures. The thing with that, however, is I don't want to interpret any of this as feminist propaganda because these sorts of hardships are not exclusive to a single sex or gender. Yes, the likes of Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman are icons that any female out there would proudly call an inspiration and put on a pedestal, but I hate this idea that these characters should be icons exclusively for one sex or gender, that they embody the positive and negative qualities of a single sex or gender, or even worse, a subset of a single sex or gender. You know, failing to ride a bike, or messing up a particular section of a piece of music on any instrument. That sort of stuff is widespread between both males and females. It's the same thing with what Carol has had to put up with in this movie. Like, you can't say that a female or even a male character is representing and overcoming the trials and tribulations that are characteristic of their respective sex or gender if the situations they're placed in are gender inclusive or gender neutral. It does not work that way. And even then, movies like this that are meant to be uplifting and inspirational don't weaponize their themes and agenda. I'm not saying this movie has an agenda, but you get what I mean. These movies don't go, oh, because I am a woman, or despite my being a woman, I have overcome all the odds, or some bullshit like that. And it really is bullshit. And with me realizing it's bullshit, here I am anyway, going at length about it, so why don't I get back on track? Long story short, Captain Marvel, pretty solid movie, neither spectacular nor disastrous, but it definitely is a Phase 1 MCU movie in Phase 4 MCU. 3.5 out of 5. Now, Shazam. Oh my god, I love this movie. By far the most fun I've had with any superhero movie in a while. And yes, this includes Into the Spider-Verse. It's a movie that the DCEU needs badly. The first trailer made me go, okay, this looks interesting. Hope they don't drop the ball with this one. And then the second trailer dropped and I'm like, April, will you come any faster please? And I finally saw the movie and the wait was worth it. I've not heard much about David Sandberg or his work. In fact, I've not heard anything about them at all. But from what I've read about him, he seemed like a pretty darn good director. And all he needed was a budget and he could create something truly special. And he did make something special in the form of Shazam. This movie is a shit ton of fun, which a lot of superhero movies today, not just the ones in the DCEU, tend to forget about. This movie doesn't take itself too seriously. It relishes in its ridiculousness and its escapism. It's a nice departure from all the angst and, pardon my use of this word because I really hate it, edginess of other superhero movies today. There's just something optimistic about this movie, and the cast and characters really bring that atmosphere out. Asher Angel as Billy Batson, Jack Dylan Grazer as Freddie Freeman, and Zachary Levi as Shazam. They're the trifecta that really holds the movie together. The whole dynamic between the streetwise and sarcastic Billy Batson and the nerdy and enthusiastic Freddie Freeman is very charming. And upon Billy gaining his powers, that endearment and fun within that dynamic between him and Freddie is escalated to a higher degree. That's the thing I always found charming about these wish fulfillment driven shows and films, in that the characters and setting still have an element of humanity within them to keep them grounded, despite all the unbelievable things that can and do happen. Yeah, it's a bit cliched to compliment characters for being relatable or down to earth or whatever, but in a movie like this, where one of the key points is to enable a demographic, especially a young demographic, to project themselves onto the main character and all his plights and triumphs. That's a really important thing to keep in mind. And Shazam does a great job of illustrating an image of what it would be like for a child to receive all these godly powers and what he would do under these circumstances. Let's face it, what would a typical teenager do if they were to receive a superpower like, I don't know, invisibility? They'd skip their classes, they'd one-up the bullies that have been giving them a hard time, they'd sneak into the girls' bathroom, or the boys' bathroom, whatever. The family that Billy is adopted into are great characters in their own right. They're as much the heart and soul of the movie as Billy and Freddie are. The foster parents are especially likable. I'm happy that they're not just another pair of abusive, dysfunctional foster parents, which I swear to God, Hollywood filmmakers have an obsession with. Dear Hollywood, not every foster parent on the planet is Miss Hannigan from Little Orphan Annie. Come back down to earth, please. This movie is a delightful combination of heart, escapism, and tongue-in-cheek and borderline meta humor. It's the kind of movie that the DCEU needs badly. It's not a perfect movie, don't be mistaken. I did find umbrage with how not so subtle the film is with the whole theme of family. Literally every other scene in this movie is family this, family that. Like, I get it. It's a family fun movie and it's in line with the heart of the movie, but it's an issue of telling and not showing. I know this movie is meant to be campy, and it's really campy, and there's nothing inherently wrong with camp. In fact, this movie evokes pleasant and fun memories of the campy superhero movies from the mid-2000s, like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, but this is one of the cornier aspects of those movies. Like, as I'm watching this movie and all these mentions of family are made, like every other second, I'm thinking to myself, okay, melodramatic much? The climax was enjoyable. I'm not gonna spoil it. I will say that it cranks up the wish fulfillment aspects up to 11, but it drags on longer than it needs to. You can feel the scene overstay its welcome, and it's unfortunate because this should be the funnest scene in a movie that thrives itself on having a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, the pros of Shazam definitely outweigh the cons. It's a lot of fun, it's optimistic, the characters are as wonderful as the actors are well casted, and I think this is a step in the right direction for the DCEU. Shazam is a 4 out of 5 from me. Yes, I like this movie more than Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel, while still a good movie, is an obligatory MCU origin movie, and as such, it has the shortcomings of one, and it's noticeable at this latest stage in the MCU. Shazam is fresh, exciting, breathes life into the DCEU, and gives the DCEU a fighting chance against its competition. I'm definitely seeing Shazam again. So good, so fun, and that's pretty much it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this unscripted mess that I cobbled together, and yeah, I'm gonna get back into the YouTube groove again. Stay tuned for the next videos, which will be the second part of my Mickey Mouse retrospective, and a new Gumball review, The Transformation. Until then, I'm the one and only CR Martin, and I'll see you guys later. Ciao for now.